All right, welcome everybody. I am Chad Berry. I am in Banff National Park right now with my good friend Paul Ziska, one of probably the most well-known adventure landscape and astrophotographers in Canada. We're in his backyard right now, and we just came off, I came off 3 offbeat workshops in the last 2 weeks, 2 of which were being taught by Paul Ziska here. And we're just going to we're going to chat a little bit. Want you to get to know this man, get to know his work a little bit. Feeling good?
Excited.
Feeling good. All right.
It's beautiful in the mountains.
It is. This is gorgeous. I can't believe my wife and I were talking, and I'm wearing my Yellowstone hat. I think that's blasphemy up here, right? But you know that I do a lot of photography. I do a lot of travel. The last couple of years, I've done Olympic National Park a couple times, Yellowstone National Park a couple times. Spent a lot of time in Ontario at our big park, which is Algonquin Provincial Park. But I haven't seen or photographed a lot of Canada. So I'm really excited to be out here, to be in your backyard, to see what you see every day. And my goodness, it's awesome.
It's a pretty special part of the world for sure.
It's incredible.
Yeah, you can see why I decided to stick around, eh?
Yeah. So how long have you been out here?
I've been in the Rockies full time for about 11 years now.
11 years.
Yeah.
11 years.
And on and off for several years before that, just working the summers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been here 11 days and my mind is just exploding, right? There's stuff to photograph everywhere here.
It's
just
a pretty overwhelming place for photography.
It's
for sure.
It's
I live
incredible.
here and I'm still, the list only gets longer,
Yeah.
right? The possibilities just, keep on coming. So,
Yeah, and you've had a lot of success here. I think most photographers out there, when your name comes up, they know the name and they associate a certain kind of a look to your photography. That you've got a signature. You want to expand on that? But
it's great to hear. Yeah, you're. It's a tough question. People ask you, "What's your style?" Right? And I find a lot of the time it's better answered by other people. You sort of try to stick to what you're fired up about, and then hopefully out of that there's some sort of trends that will emerge that will be recognizable by the general public. But I don't think anybody really aims for that specifically, right? But what I'm told from people is um, definitely astrophotography has been a big part of my work the last few years. Just overall, I think wild places have always been sort of the centerpiece of what I do. I just love to. It's driven by curiosity, really. I just like to see what's around the corner, and I love photography because it makes me feel like a little kid again. I can just go see what's over the hill and how it looks from that angle or this angle. Um, and so it's really driven by that, and that's the reason why I love to head up high, and I love that I know that people enjoy sort of the higher vantage points as well.
absolutely.
And I think the self portraits have definitely been a trend as well
Yeah,
over the last few
you
years.
include the human element a lot in where, I mean, as a traditional, and I struggle with this myself because when I started landscape, I wanted to get rid of every human element. I mean, if there was a telephone pole, it's got to go, right? If there's I don't include the dock. I never put myself in photos until just more recently in the last couple of years. But you've been doing that for some time, and I think that people resonate with that.
It seems that way for sure. I mean, it's a trend that not just in my own work, but it's just exploded. I mean, if you spend a little bit of time on social media, you realize that, the human element in the landscape, this sort of hybrid type of photography has just exploded over the last few years. And I used to be more of a purist that way, where I thought, I'm a landscape photographer, so I'm going to go out of my way to try to eliminate human element in everything that I do. And I used to do that, and then, but then over the years, I think I realized that there's room for both, and so I went from full on landscape to including the human element a lot in my shots, say 2 or 3 years ago, and now I feel like I'm sort of starting to swing back the other way a little bit and trying to reach a balance that works for me. But it'll probably always switch from one end of the spectrum to
Yeah,
the other,
yeah.
right? That's just the journey of
Sure.
photography.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the journey of an artist. So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Do you have a favorite genre?
I would say right now, today, probably astrophotography.
Astros.
Yeah, I
Okay.
get really excited by the possibilities of shooting at night. I feel like nothing's been done. I enjoy. I find it's particularly challenging type of photography,
Absolutely.
but when it works really well, right? And it can be very rewarding. But I find it's a type of photography that you can't rush. You have to immerse yourself. So I like that. You have to sort of become at one with wherever you're working. I love that you need to be very intentional about what you do because you can't really cut corners with nighttime photography. Uh, you, so I like how it forces you to slow down your process, and instead of just trying to rack up as many shots that you can in an hour, which you kind of go back to why you started, and you just slow down the process, and it's a lot of walking and looking at things, long exposures, get the exposure good looking, just look around, there's nothing else to do, taking in with the eyes for what it is. And yeah, I just love just how peaceful the process is for me, as opposed to chasing uh, pink sunsets and red sunrises, and then you just stumble all
Like
over the
everybody
place. And for
else.
me, it's just not. It's a totally different kind of experience that I'm not into as much anymore. Yeah.
Well, you said two things that really resonate with me. You talked about slowing down and shooting with intent. And those are two things I know I preach all the time. When I teach any of my students, I'm always, you get up to a summit or something and to the grand lookout, and everybody just plops that tripod down, gets that shot right away, and it's the same shot everybody else is getting, and you don't find anything unique until you start to slow down and take in the scene and start to study it and realize uh, what in that scene is really attracting you, those little pieces. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's the more and more I include non-shooting time as part of my workflow,
Mhm.
and um, I find that overall it just is just made for less images certainly, but hopefully more compelling images overall. Yeah,
It's
so a lot more thought and time. I think it's a trend that probably all photographers experience, where a lot more time and thought goes into the average, the the one image on average.
it definitely shows in the portfolio. You can the
Yeah,
intent's there. You're getting some stunning images,
I
which is
appreciate
just
it.
great.
Thanks, Chad.
So I mentioned that I'm here doing some workshops. I was up in Grand Prairie doing a character workshop, and we did portraits in high places, which was super cool. And we just finished monochrome mountains, where we focused on not seeing in color in some of the most colorful and beautiful places
Pretty
in
much.
Canada. There was
Torture.
some challenge. Yeah, it was definitely a torture. These just awesome placid turquoise lakes in front of us, and we got to shoot them in black and white. But you teach workshops all over the world, and you a couple years ago you joined forces with a friend of yours and my mentor, Dave Brocha, who lives in PI. He's been here with these workshops as well, and you guys formed something called Offbeat. Do you want to touch base on what Offbeat is, how it came
Yeah,
about, and
for sure. How it came about? Well, we got Dave and I worked. We only met, I think, 4 years ago, um, but we ended up doing so many workshops and working together so much, and we felt like we had a good dynamics going. And really, part of it was just to uh, create an entity that was separate from what Dave Brocha photography was doing, and what Paul Ziska photography was doing, and to sort of brand it separately. Um, so that was part of the idea, and part of it was to just we were super keen. We are always both really keen on the idea of community, uh, community, and um, really creating something that allows two things. For one, facilitating um, people in a way returning to the wilderness. Right. I think we both felt like it's a shame that we're so as a in general, people are just so removed from the wilderness, I think, and we started leading workshops, and it is amazing to see how uncomfortable people were just standing on the lake shore at night, even 10 meters from the car, right? People look over the shoulder, you get all, as opposed to just, embracing it, trying to be, at peace with those moments. So part of Offbeat is just trying to get people back into wild places. And the other part of Offbeat is trying to get people to get in touch with their creative side. We also felt like that's another thing that's been lost, I think, over the generations, I guess, in a way, is um, as people's lives get more and more chaotic and hectic, that's one thing that is left behind pretty quickly, right? It's anything creative. It's sort of I don't have time for that, right? Either that or I'm not creative. There's no creativity there. There's nothing there, and whereas we feel like everybody has it in them. It's just that it's a matter of taking the time to explore that. Just like that sort of primal need for wilderness, I think, is in everybody. It's just that it's overshadowed by just so many other things. And so, yeah, we were keen on creating something that's going to facilitate a return to creativity and the wilderness. And of course, both go hand in hand. Photography and the wilderness go hand in hand. And so we decided to start Offbeat, and basically Offbeat consists of workshops like we just did here in the Rockies and beyond. And there's also an online component, just simply because I think you have to recognize that's where people connect a lot of the time. That's where people hang out. So there's an online component where most of the people who are part of the community are people who've done workshops with us, but not everybody. And it's made up of people who are keen on exploring the wilderness and exploring their own creativity. And we try to generate engagement, and we try to keep it a community that sort of elevates all photographers. We hope that people check their ego at the door, and that we can keep it an uplifting place. And we're 2 years in, and so far so good.
Yeah, I can speak to that and say it's awesome. When I was looking for someone, a place to belong.
Yeah.
I wanted a place where, the egos were checked at the door, where it was open to everybody, very welcoming and very supportive. And I found that inside the community. It's great. I come out here and I'm meeting people that I've only known online. And I walk in the door, and the first thing I get is a great big hug.
Yep.
Right? It's fantastic. And out of the, I've probably met 100, 150 people through workshop, through Offbeat now, and very little ego at all. It's been fantastic, and
it's been pretty great that way. I mean, there is a lot of ego, I think, in the photo community.
Absolutely,
large,
absolutely.
As a whole, because it's such a sort of, it's really like a sort of a solitary, sometimes selfish pursuit, right? But we've been very fortunate that we've attracted people who give a lot more than they take.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that comes down to leadership, right? It's not to make you blush on camera, but both you and Dave are so generous with your time, and so open with your skill set, your knowledge. You share everything, and you invite people into your world every day, which is pretty fantastic. So it's I think what you put out there is what you bring back, and Offbeat's pretty awesome. So I will link to Offbeat below. So if you're interested in being a member, this isn't an Offbeat plug video, but I do believe in it absolutely. So I'll put that link below and stuff.
Thanks, Chad.
Let's go back to the Rockies here, and you landed here in Banff. Obviously the Rockies have a really a huge part of your heart up here. Is there a favorite area? We actually have a little chipmunk friend coming in here for looking for some food right now, and we got insects. This is the wild. So, is there a favorite? Is there a favorite? Shooting location? You mentioned sunrise and sunset. People chasing those all the time, and we're never going to stop that. And we all do it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Is there a favorite sunset spot you've got?
I think, if I get if I'm given the chance, if I have the time, I'd rather be high up than at valley
Yeah.
bottom. That's probably where I'm at my happiest, I would say. I just love, yeah, it's so nice to have all, the different perspective, and just yeah, there's the feeling about high places that's hard to
Sure.
describe that I really like. But the truth is, sometimes I just have an hour to work with,
Yep.
and honestly, I love it here at Lake Minnewanka. I've got maybe Lake Minnewanka, two Jack Lake, Vermilion Lakes. They're my go-to if for those days where, say, with the family and with editing and computer work. Say I've been in the house all day and I just want to get creative for like an hour. That's all the time
Yep.
I have. Well, I'll drive up here for 15 minutes here, 15 minutes back, and it gives me half an hour to just switch my brain to to something else.
Sure.
And then I'll just sleep better, right? Just
Yeah.
because I've walked along the shore and
Got
I've
some
I got
creativity.
I got
Yeah.
the creative part of my brain going.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I feel very fortunate that I've got a few locations like that that inspire me, even though I've shot them a lot of times that are within short drive from the house.
I'm glad you mentioned the work part, right? Being at home and doing the editing and family and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
really a balance, and I think it's so easy for uh, those who don't know, the business side of photography to romanticize it and think that Paul Zisk is just traveling all over the world and getting paid to take these epic photos in amazing locations and stuff. But it's really, I mean, it's a lot of work, and the creative part, it's a small component in some cases, right? You
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's probably one of the most romanticized jobs out there. And I'll be honest, before I started, I thought that I would shoot every sunrise, sunset, and that by lunchtime I would have sold a couple prints and then take the afternoon off, do
It
it
didn't
again
work
the
out that
next
way?
day. No, not quite. No, I mean it is a huge amount of work. It's definitely not for everybody. Um, it's a lot of work that doesn't feel like work. There's most of it I truly really enjoy. There's some parts of it, like any job, that I could do without.
Sure.
But no, it's just, yeah, it's just trying to balance it all out so that you can actually carve out that creative time.
Right.
It's amazing how when things start going well, you realize, well, you haven't shot in 2 3 weeks because because yeah, emails come in and you're interacting on social media and other opportunities come in, and then it's just, yeah, trying to be very intentional about, yeah, making that creative time, that creating those blocks of creative time that that sort of you stick to.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Because yeah, it's I mean, I know people who don't do it for work who get out a lot more than I do.
Yep.
Right. But and I think part of it is you have to embrace the other parts of it too, right? Like social media. At first, I was like, wow, I've got so many things to do now. You're telling me I need to get a social media, an account on this platform, that platform, and then. But after a while, if you decide that you're going to make it fun and interesting,
Sure.
and you kind of have to, I think, to make things sustainable, even though you'd rather be out there shooting in the field all the time. Yeah, you can make those. It's just about, yeah, viewing things in a
Yeah.
positive light, I guess, and yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
you've got a huge following. You mentioned social media. You've got your Twitter, your Facebook, you've got a large crowd following. And I think the common mistake I see a lot of people doing is shooting for social media.
Yeah.
Do you ever shoot for social media?
Oh, for sure. I'm still guilty of it,
Yeah.
for sure. I think I'm doing a lot better than I used to, though. I mean, I've had stretches where I was shooting solely for social media, and I started operating like a robot and
Yeah.
just following recipes in the field that I knew would gather a million likes, and then
It's a
uh,
trap.
oh, it's a trap. And then there are images that are just not at all memorable to me when I look at them
Yeah,
now,
they
right?
don't
Like,
speak to the
and I
artist.
think everybody, you get to a point where if that's what you want, you know exactly what you need to do in the field to get that online pat on the back. But um, it doesn't really, it doesn't really move you forward in your journey.
Right.
And plus, the end result is you end up with the same body of work as
Everybody
a
else.
thousand other people, and then you can't develop that style that we were kind of
Right.
talking about. So, and I think, it's not sustainable, right? Because it's such a short-lived.
When you got to follow those trends,
It's such a
right?
short-lived boost, and then it is a trap, and then you feel like you have to deliver those kinds of images over and over again, and then you kind of stray from your sort of initial vision and your own creative path, and it takes the fun out of it, I think. So I think I'm doing a lot better at just shooting what gets me fired up, and if people like it, great, it's a nice byproduct. And if people don't, well, I mean, ultimately, I think, yeah, the only way to do it sustainably is to stick to what you like to shoot. And I can't, at the same time, I'm not going to say I couldn't care less what people think of
Oh,
what
no,
I
sure.
do, right? Like,
Sure.
there's no way people won't sign up for workshops. If there's 10 people on the planet who respond to the images I create, there's no way I'm going to make it work from a business standpoint. So, I do think about what people like, but I'm lucky in the sense that it so happens that what I like to create, people respond well to.
Yeah.
I don't have, I'm not shooting a very obscure kind of fringe genre that has a very small following, right? Who doesn't like stars and mountains and adventure, right? So I'm very fortunate that way.
Absolutely.
But it's definitely something to watch out. Like, if for anybody starting in photography, I think you can save yourself a lot of grief if you can avoid just falling into that trap.
Don't get trapped.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Paul. Thanks for spending some time. I know that you've, we just finished 2 workshops together, back to back, and you're on your way to Mongolia on Sunday. Right? 'Cause you're busy. You're a busy man. So thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your schedule, away from your family life and all that work-life balance that you talk about, to do this little interview with me. I really appreciate it. Anything, last things you want to throw out there or anything? Or
Not really. No, thanks for taking the time. I think it's great you doing this. And no, I know we're all busy, right? So I appreciate you taking time to create this. And yeah, hope people enjoy it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I hope
Come to the
you
Rockies.
Come to the Rockies. That's
Yeah.
it. Well, I hope you have a great trip, a safe trip out to Mongolia and
Thanks,
stuff.
Jack.
And we'll definitely be seeing you again. So
Awesome. Pleasure.
thank you. Cheers.